What's going on, good people? How y'all doing? How y'all doing? How y'all doing? How y'all doing? Um, Today we will be titling this The Testimony. The Testimony. And I'm going to basically be walking y'all through my testimony. Let's dive into it. So I can remember back when I was 21 years old, I caught a DUI. I had been drinking and I was driving my car and I had a headlight out. So because one of the headlights was out, I had the brights on. So I'm come driving past, I'm about less than a mile from the house. I stop at the stop sign, cross the stop sign, the police stop at the stop sign, he crosses. He sees the brights on, he bent on me. He bent on me. And I had been drinking a lot. And he smelled the alcohol, whatever. So, make a long story short, I caught a DUI that night. I looked up at the officer and I said, man, you about to screw my life over, man. Like I supposed to, become a truck driver. And, he basically hit me with the whole, you did it to yourself, whatever. So, long story short, I go through that process of catching a DUI and, having that on me. And I didn't drive for almost 2 years. So a year, I couldn't drive. And then almost a year after that, I didn't drive. And then I eventually got my license back. And once I had to take the test all over again, like I never had a driver's license. I had to do everything all over again as if I never had a license. And through this trial period of my life, I hit some hard times and some rough times and some rough patches, and I went on to do another career. I got into quality assurance in food manufacturing. So I, kind of climbed up the ladder in that, and so to fast forward some time, I started working in that field. I became a supervisor in that field, and I was making about 55 grand a year. So after doing that for some time, working in corporate America and just seeing how corporate America do things, the way that they operated did not resonate with who I was. As a God-fearing man, it didn't soothe my spirit or my soul. I would go to work and I would be bothered and I would be disturbed. Regarding how they are. They would they had like this point system. I was a supervisor, so I was salary, so I didn't punch no time clock or nothing. But the employees there, they would had to punch the time clock. And, of course, majority of the employees were African American, and most of all the, higher uppers were white. And, they would, well, she only got 1 point left. We know she's going to call off, like basically just plotting against people's job and just plotting against. And I looked at it and said, man, I don't want nobody but God having the power to cut me off from something. I don't want nobody having this much power and control over how I feed my family that I can come here and you can plot against my job. That is too much power. You can go to work every day and do your job, but in the corporate America world, you're just either a number or another employee. I'm not saying every single company is this way, but I'm going to tell you the honest to God truth that most of them are. Most of them are. And if y'all think I'm looking this way, I'm not. I got the phone sideways, so if that's why I look like I'm looking this way. I got the phone laying sideways. I just want to throw that out there so y'all don't think I'm cross-eyed. But anyway, to get back to the story, most of them are. Most of them are like that. Most of them big companies and big corporations, you're just another number. And so I it didn't resonate with me. It didn't soothe my spirit. So I went home to my wife, and one day I was laying in the bed. I leaned up and looked at her and said, I'm going to get my CDL. She said, you want to quit your career to go get a CDL and drive a truck? I said, yeah, because not only, I grew up around truck driving. My uncles did it. My father did it. My brothers did it. Like, it was always around me. And I'm like, yeah, it was a dream of mine to implement this in my life because it was always around me. So she said, okay, I'll support you. Now, keep in mind, I caught a DUI at 21. So from 21, I decided to get my license when I was about 28. You had to be about 28 when I decided to get my license. So I'm midway through me getting my license back and everything. I'm calling around for CDL companies. This was prior to meeting my wife. I had to back up a little bit prior to meeting my wife. I'm calling around, trying to get a job. Trying to get into trucking. And they like, oh, well, you got a DUI. Most companies won't take you unless it's 5 years old. And the only company that would take me prior, at 3 years was a company called Prime. And after 3 years, Prime would take me. So I had to wait, the 3 years in. At the time, 3 years in, I had just had a child, and I didn't want to go over the road just having a child being born. So I didn't go with Prime. So I ended up, making up the ranks in the quality assurance field. I ended up bumping into my wife, making up the ranks in the quality assurance field. And then that's when it did not resonate in my spirit about corporate America or whatnot. And then that's when I came home and I said, hey, this is what I want to do. And she said, hey, I support it. So we begin the journey of the whole CDL thing, which is all of this is just, a part of my journey, through my testimony. And I said, yeah, because I want to be my own boss. She said, well, what you mean? I said, well, I'm going to get my CDL. I'm going to buy me a truck and I'm going to be my own boss and I'm going to start my own trucking company. I'm going to start my own trucking company. This is what I told her. She said, okay, I support it. So we fell on some hard times. We lost some things, and I wanted what I wanted so bad that I did whatever I had to do to get where I wanted to be. I'm not saying I did some bad things, and what I'm saying is I did not allow failure to be an option. See, some of us, we make a plan A, and then alongside of plan A, we'll place plan B. If this don't work, I'm going to do this. But I made it not an option. I didn't create a plan B with my plan A. I made my plan A my plan. I manifest my plan A in my life. I manifest my plan A in my life. I did not need a B because I was not going to fail at A. I refuse to fail at A. So I did not create a B because I did not want to fail my A. So anyway, we lost some things. Time went on. I eventually got my CDL. All right. I got my CDL. I went out on the road for a little bit, came home, started driving, local. Well, it was like regional, but I'm working 12, 14-hour days, some days 16 hours. And I was spending a lot of time in this truck. And I say, man, I got to figure out how to buy some of my time back. And the only way I'm going to figure out how to buy some of my time back is to get my own truck. So that way I have more control over what I'm doing. Because when you're a company driver, you have no control. They tell you what, when, where, and how, just like any other job. They tell you what, when, where, and how. So I'm like, man, I got to buy some of my time back. And it's just, listen, this is no shot, to my brothers. I love them to death. But this is a part of my testimony. Brothers, I love y'all. Please don't take it as a shot. It's just a part of my testimony to show, the world and to show people who will watch this video that if you stay faithful to God, if you keep God first, if you remain humble and steadfast, that God will do exactly what he said he was going to do. Don't be dismayed in your spirit. Don't be dismayed. All right. But this ain't no shot. This is just a part of my testimony. Anyway, so come back, whatever. So this was January of, I believe, 2019. And I could remember having a conversation with both of my brothers, my twin brother and my older brother. And, they had been in the game long before me. I had just got in the game. They had been in the game long before me. And I could remember having a conversation with them. And it went a little like, I said, hey, look, y'all, I want to get me a truck. I want to get me a truck my first year, of truck driving. And they both said, nah, you ain't going to be able to do that. This going to happen, that's going to happen, this going to happen, and that's going to happen. So they threw out, some trials that I would face in the industry. Though I did face those trials, I faced those trials and some. I ended up breaking my arm, let's say, January, about March of 2019 of that year. The same year I told my brothers I wanted to get a truck. The same year where I really hit the ground running, just got, running in the industry, I breaks my arm. Now my arm is broke from January, March, all the way to July of 2019. I did not work. So remember, from January to March, I was driving trucks. From March to July, my arm was broke. I didn't get back to work until August. So from March till August, I was completely out of work. God kept me. God sustained me and my family. It was tough times, but he kept me and he sustained me. So I got back to work. I get back to work in August. In December, the job that I went to had a layoff in December. Follow these dates. These dates are very important to this testimony. January to March, I worked. March to August, my arm was broke. I went back to work in August. From August to December, I worked. In December, the job laid off. December of 2019, the job laid us off. January of 2020, I bought my truck. Let me tell you that God will. God will. People will always speak to you in flesh if they're not spiritual. But you must always speak to them in spirit. When I was speaking to my brother saying that I wanted to get this truck, and they began to talk about the trials that I will face, I'm not mad at them. I don't even want y'all to focus on that. These were trials that they faced. These were things they seen as maybe big milestones to them. I was speaking from a spiritual standpoint that God said, if seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and I'll add everything you need. I will bless the desires of your heart. Having that truck was a desire of my heart. Becoming my own boss was a desire of my heart. But all in this process, I kept God first. I didn't waver. Yes, I made mistakes. Yes, I failed as a man. It was times I failed as a husband. It was times I failed as a brother. It was times I failed as a father. But I did not lose my faith. I did not lose my faith. I did not doubt that God was going to do what he said he was going to do. I kept pushing. Now, if you pay attention to those time frames, January, February, March, that's 3 months. August, September, October, November, December. That is 8 months. That is less than 12 months. I started driving January of 2019. I drove for the first 3 months. I broke my arm. I drove for the last 4 months, the job laid off. The top of 2020, I purchased my truck. The top of 2020, I purchased my truck. So I'm telling you, don't let nobody tell you what God is going to do in your life. I'm not saying that that's what they said. They were only speaking from their trials and their experiences. What I'm saying is when God puts something on your heart, don't allow someone else's opinion to deceive you from what God has laid on your heart. Don't do it. Now we fast forward. 2020 hit, I bought a truck. All right. COVID hit. If all of us know, COVID started late 2019, took us by storm in 2020, and everybody know the story. So COVID hit. So it get tough for me, really tough. So it was guys taking their truck back to I got it from a place called Liberty. It was guys taking their truck back to Liberty, left or right, because jobs was just folding and crumbling, and it was hard for owner ops at the time. It was so slow. Guys were just taking the trucks back. Nah, I can't do this. I can't afford it. And it was even a point where I told my wife it had got so tough. I'm like, babe, I'm thinking about giving this truck back, man. These payments, it's tough. She like, no, you ain't. No, you ain't. This is what you work for. This is what you, no, you're not. No, you're not. So I said, you know what? You're right. You're right. This is what I'm going to do. I parked the truck and went start being a company driver again. Listen, I'm saying this, so I'm going to pause my testimony to say this. Don't never be afraid to take a couple steps back. Don't never be afraid to reposition yourself. Don't never be afraid to reassess your plan. Do not ever be so prideful or afraid that you are not willing to reassess your plan. There's nothing wrong with retreating and reassessing. Retreating and reassessing. There's nothing wrong with that. Retreat from your initial plan and recess it and come up with another tactic on how you're going to tackle where you're trying to go, because there's more than one way to skin a cat. There's more than one way to skin a cat. Okay, so I parked the truck. I went back to company driving. A guy that I knew that I was hauling for, he said, look, you just got your truck sitting and ain't making no money. I'll find you a driver. I'll put a driver in your truck. At the time, I'm at the post office. I'm driving trucks for the post office from Chicago to Milwaukee. And I was making about $30 an hour with them. And then the guy found me a driver for my truck. So prior to that happening, prior to me, I still was a company driver, but prior to me finding a driver for my truck, COVID hit, it got really hard. So when I came to my wife with that story, she said, no, you're not. And I told her she was right. Let me reassess what's going on. I'm going to have to park this truck for a while. So when I parked the truck, I went back to where I got the truck from, a man named Jerry. Now, I'm going to back up a little bit so I can tell y'all a little bit about Jerry. I know it sounds like I'm all over the place, but follow the testimony. I met Jerry. This was right before I bought the truck. I met Jerry. I say, Jerry, how much is the down payments on these trucks? He said anywhere between $4,000 to $6,000. At that time, I remember I had just got laid off in December. At that time, I only had $5,000 in my account. So I say, look, Jerry, I really want that truck. I don't have $4,000. I don't. I got $2,000 that I could put down as a down payment, and I promise that I'll bring you business, or I promise, to make good on my notes and not miss a thing. You give me opportunity or whatever. And God touched Jerry hard, and Jerry did that for me. And when I met with the finance lady on that Monday, she said, he must like you. I say, why you say that? She said, this is the lowest down payment that we ever received for a truck. The lowest down payment that we ever received for a truck. Jerry was my angel. God touched his heart. to give me that opportunity. So now fast forward back to me parking the truck. So I went back to Jerry when I parked the truck. I said, Jerry, look, I'm not even driving the truck. I'm a company driver now. COVID is hard. Can I refinance this truck? He said yes. Now, my initial deal on the truck was 2.5 years. It's about $380 a week. So somewhere in between 12 and 1,400 a month for 2.5 years. That was the original deal. I went back in. I said, listen, I cannot afford this. I'm a company driver. I'm not even driving this truck. Can we refinance? So we refinanced. He stretched the deal out to 4.5 years at $720 a month. So he cut my payment in half. So that was a big blessing to me. Big blessing to me. So fast forward. Time went on. So now I'm working. Things pick up, of course. I leave the post office. I get back in my truck. Now I'm back in my truck and I'm driving my truck. I get rid of the driver and everything. I'm back in my truck because it just wasn't working out. Calling me all in the middle of the night, none of that really matters, but that didn't work out. So I ended up leaving the post office, getting back in my truck, and I started back driving my own truck, and things began to pick up. And, we all went through the trial of COVID in that year, and things began to, look a little okay. And fast forward all the way to now. I changed over. I moved to a different state, so I wanted to transferred over my LLC to the state that I moved to, and I wanted to switch over the paperwork for the truck, the registration paperwork and all that, the title and everything. I wanted to switch it over, though the title was still theirs. It was, my name was still on it until I, were to pay the truck off, and it was in my old LLC. So I got a new LLC for the state that I moved to. So I say, you know what? I need to go up here and get this paperwork transferred over. So that way, when I begin to, start running on my authority, all my addresses and everything would match, and I won't have no problem with DOT. So I go up there. She get to looking through my paperwork. She's looking through the paperwork. She say, Let me, how much money you got? You got about $6,000. I said, nah, I got about 5 though. Tell you how God work. I said, nah, I got about 5 though. She say, look at this. She showed me where I had, when I refinanced the truck, they never added my down payment or the money that I paid towards the truck prior to refinancing the truck. Now, I bought the truck in January of 2020. I went back to refinance the truck in October. In October is where I went back to refinance the truck. So from January of 2020 to October of 2020, all of those payments, they never added, nor did they add my down payment. When she refinanced the truck for me, she made it as though I came back in and just did the deal from that time forward. I didn't know this. This lady caught this information. Now, by this time, Jerry died because of COVID. He passed away. God rest his soul. And some new people started working here. The lady the finance lady that did the deal with me wasn't even at this company no more. So she said, yes, you've paid I paid $11,000 in payments from January to October, plus my down payment of $2,000. So I paid a total of $13,000 into this truck prior to refinancing it. $13,000 that they did not add. All of this stuff was in receipts in their files. And here I am, just not paying attention, and at the same time, those very mistakes and my lack of attention to those mistakes at that time was my biggest blessing. It was my biggest blessing. So she said, you paid $13,000, into the truck, prior to you refinancing it. And since you've refinanced it, you've paid an additional $14,000. She said, Mr. Sanders, give me $5,000 and you can have the title to your truck. So wait a minute. You serious? She said, yes. Give me $5,000 and you can have the title to your truck. I gave her $5,000 right there on the spot. On the spot. And I'm now the owner of my truck. 2011 Freightliner, 690,000 miles that I've babied the last 2 years that I've owned this truck. I've babied it. I've put over 10 grand into this truck and I've babied it and it's right. I'm saying all of that to say my initial deal was 2.5 years. 2 years, 6 months. That was the initial deal. My refinance deal was 4.5 years. My refinance deal was 4.5 years. God's deal was 2 years, 3 months. In my mind, I had 2.5 more years because I only had the truck 2 years at this point before I even gave her the money for it to pay it off. I only had the truck 2 years. So in my mind, I got 2.5 years left, which was about another 14 G's, right? Because they didn't add the 13 G's. If you follow me, they didn't add the 13 G's that I had already paid into the truck. So in my mind, I only paid 14,000 off on this truck. I still owe another 14 grand. The truck was like 30, 35 or something with they interest. In my mind. Now, of course, they probably got me for about 1,000 or 1,500 or something in there with those numbers, but with me giving them that 5K, but that wasn't the point. The point is, I finished a 4.5 year deal. God finished a 4.5 year deal in 2 years, 3 months. 2 years, 3 months. God finished a 4.5 year deal in 2 years, 3 months. I'm telling you this testimony so that it can pierce your heart, so that you can see that our God is just. He'll use people who think that they using you for your good. For your good. For your good. Being mischievous with the numbers and not doing this and not doing that. God gave me this truck. Not only before the 4.5 year deal, he gave me the truck before the initial deal of 2 years, 6 months. He gave me the truck before the initial deal of 2 years, 6 months. I got it. I got the title in 2 years, 3 months. The crazy part about the testimony, I was paying less money. I was initially paying about $380 a week. At the refinance, I was paying $170 a week. But God, as I begin to come home, I asked my wife, I said, man, something don't add up. These numbers are off. Something is not adding up. We begin to look through the paperwork. And as we look it through the paperwork, it hit me. Why you doing numbers? Why you counting numbers? God has blessed you. Accept what he has given you. Close this folder. You got the title to your truck. You got your bill of sale. You got all your receipts. You got everything that you need. Close this stuff. Don't try to figure out what God is doing. You will hurt your head. Don't try to figure out what and why God did something. You will hurt your head. Just receive the blessing. I was not perfect, even up until this point. I am not a perfect man. I've made great mistakes. But if you stay faithful to God, if you stay faithful to his word, if you stay faithful to him, if you believe in your heart and you trust the process and you manifest yourself, manifest what you want for yourself, see it, think it, believe it, and it will be so. Listen, family, God is love, God is peace, man. I love y'all. I really just wanted to share this testimony with y'all. It was a very big deal in my life. I'm grateful to God, to be in the position that I'm in right now. Though, trucking is, how I go this time of year, it's a little slow, but God is just. God is just, and he's going to do exactly what he said he was going to do. Whatever he placed on your heart, whatever he got stored up for you, you keep the faith, you keep pushing. He's going to bring it full force in your life. God bless y'all, man. Again, this is called a testimony. I just shared a great testimony with y'all, man, and I hope that someone can take this and apply it to their lives and be just as fruitful, if not more fruitful, and be blessed and more abundant, than even my situation, and I'm glory to God, and I thank God for it. And peace, family.